Good morning, everyone. Okay, there we go. So, got Mr. Bub over here. He's off camera. In fact, he's right beside the camera on the arm of the couch, getting a little ear scritch. Yeah, loves that, don't he? There we go. And we're back with Moonology Monday again. And I'm going to read you a little something I happened across. And I really want you to pay attention to this because something told me, grab this book. It's which one is it? Letters to a Starseed. I do recommend this. It's a great book. And it says, when I was kind of like I was doing a little flip through like this and just kind of stopped. And sure enough, this is what it gave me. It says, I know that in these times of great change it can feel especially scary to create. No, Bub. Stop it. As you can see, he is in rare form today. Stop that. So, I know that in these times of great change it can feel especially scary to create, with the need for and sometimes the impossibility of nuance. To put yourself out there with the risk of being shut down or getting it wrong. To share your truth and the moments later wake up a little bit more and realize that the pendulum of consciousness both within and around you has swung some more. To use the privilege of your voice and let yourself be sung, not knowing how you'll be received. To run the almost certain risk of at some stage being misunderstood or getting it wrong. When the artist creates, they put into matter what is felt in the hearts of many. When the artist creates, it helps others to make sense of the ever-changing world. As a creative, it's normal to look back on your past creations and want to change them, perfect them, even destroy them, to make them, like you, a never-ending work in progress. But that's not the role of the artist, of the creative, of the poet, the writer, the mystic, the healer, or even the weaver. We didn't come here to find out the answer and then create that. We came here to live it, to feel our way through it, to dance and sing it, to write it out. Together we may just be creating and dreaming a whole new world into being. So create through your uncertainty. Write your way through your process. Sing through your agony and your confusion. Fall and winter must come. Reach out to the hearts of others through sharing your soul's song. I think those are good words to set the tone for today's reading, and for some of us our week has already begun. For others, well, it's just getting underway. If you'll excuse me for just a moment, I have to take care of a little something. It seems Mr. Bub has decided he is going to have a little case of the zoomies and make a lot of noise. So I've just thrown his ball and now he's off to the races. So I've decided to do this just a little bit differently today. For today, yes, it's Moonology Monday. The Moonology cards will take center stage. However, they're going to be supplemented by the Starseed Oracle today because of that book. So let's get down to it, shall we? I hope that your weekend turned out really, really wonderful. I know this weekend's reading was a really good one, and I found myself talking to a couple other intuitives who were reaching many of the same broad and general conclusions that my reading was giving. And let me tell you, that used to strike me as really, really odd, until I realized something. Much like the moon, we're going through cycles. Cycles have a tendency to repeat, and where they don't repeat, they rhyme. So, it's important that we recognize those. It's important that we begin to kind of put ourselves into those cycles That way we can maximize our ability, create our momentum, and then when we finally unleash, it's like a shepherd's sling. Familiar with those? If not, allow me to introduce you. A shepherd's sling is a very, very long piece of string interrupted in the middle by a leather cup. On one end is a ring, and you slip that ring around a finger, you hold the other end, you place a stone in the cup, and you start swinging it. And as you swing it, you kind of pull your arm back, and when you release it, there's a crack like a whip. But when you do that, when you release the other end, it throws that little stone at a very, very high rate of speed. And for a pretty good long distance. Because there's momentum in the swing, and when it unleashes, there's that crack. Like I said, like a whip. It's from the end you released kind of popping in on itself. And that stone just travels as far as it can before finally landing. If there's no target selected, of course. So, every time we create, we get a little better at it. Sometimes we look back on past works and go, what the hell was I thinking? Where was I when I was in this state? And it happens. So let's start with you. So here we are. Inspired ideas from this big picture thinking. Right? When you're looking to create, you're always kind of thinking about the big picture, right? Where will it lead you? What will this accomplish? And you know, I've noticed something. Within the audiences of today, there are books, especially in spaces like Dungeons and Dragons, for example. There were books that were written that were really good. They were really good systems. And they had just that little bit of lore to spark the imagination. And when that happened, you know, you got people now looking at it going, well, this can be improved upon. We'll just do away with this and this and this and this until the thing becomes unrecognizable. And then you realize they were never really out to improve it. They were out to wreck it. To make it incompatible with this new thing that they want. Which they'll never really buy. Starting to understand? There's a difference between improving upon something and making it unrecognizable. So, for the old stuff, flawed as it may be, leave it. It's fine. Do it again. Do it again. If you really want to improve on it, repeat the process of creating it. Sometimes it just needs to stay where it is. It needs to be what it is. So that you can move forward with something else, something new. Something more to your liking. Remember, we're living it. And so with our moon phases, we're looking at a last quarter moon in Taurus. We're also looking at a first quarter moon in Libra and a new moon in Leo. So far, we're keeping with it. Excuse me again. Sorry, had to shoo Mr. Bub away from the wastebasket at my desk. He was kind of pawing at it. Anyway. So, the thing to remember is you're going to have to be a little proud of yourself. Whatever you've created before that didn't just quite turn out the way you hoped, guess what? It's an accomplishment. Those were the first steps. We said it during the weekend reading. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with that first step. So you've taken those first steps. Be proud of them. If you had never taken those first steps in the first place, this big picture wouldn't start getting painted. You're going to have to trust your process a little bit. I'd be willing to bet that comes up. And right here, keep your heart open. Those new ideas, they're going to cause new emotions. Emotions you're going to have to deal with. But the thing is, if you're constantly frightened of them, that big picture does not get painted. And finally, what do I always tell you? I tell you to shine, I tell you to shine on. That means continue doing it. Listen, if someone else finds that a part of your work is problematic, hey, sometimes tough rocks. You know, this past work of yours is problematic for these reasons. Okay. But I'm on this thing now. So, it is what it is. Now, if someone says, hey, I see something you could do that would actually make this run a little smoother. I see something that will make this story pop a little more. I see something that will make this song even more epic. If they're coming to you with something constructive, that's different. Listen and consider it. You never know. Or if someone says, hey, I can improve on this little thing right here. Instead of doing this, how about trying this and see how it flows? You never know. Ooh, try mixing these two colors and blending them together a little bit. Watch what happens. See, there is constructive criticism, and then there's just criticism for the sake of criticism. I would say listen to the constructive here. But wherever it lights you up, that's where you need to be. So, getting down to the oracle cards here. Here we go. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we are. Right now, you might be looking at some of those projects kind of wishing you were anywhere but in their presence. Let me just say, wrong attitude to have. You're kind of longing for that comfortable place, that home among the stars. And I know that you miss those comfortable spaces. You really miss being there. You miss it when it was just this wonderful idea that made you happy. But now you're looking at those past creations thinking, gosh, I'd like to be there where I was when I wrote it. I'd like to be there where I was when I finished it. That longing for home. A little bit of homesickness there. Ladies and gentlemen, home is where you make it. But right now, what you need most is a deep cellular healing. Those emotions, those things that are upsetting and disturbing you, you can either stay in them, or you can learn from them and achieve growth. Remember, in the last reading, we had a couple 5 cards come up. We had a 5 of Cups and a 5 of Swords. That 5 of Cups was regret without having learned anything. So, looking back on it, what are you regretting, and what will you learn from it? Because this is very much the same thing, but this one shows that you need to learn something if you haven't already, but you will if you allow yourself to do so. doing so by keeping that heart open. All of this pointing right at that big picture. And finally, the Courageous Peony. We have talked about this one before. We have absolutely covered this. But since we have the book here, I'd like to tell you what Rebecca Campbell has to say about that. Because what she had to say about it was absolutely great. So, actually I've found something else. But you know what? I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of an index in here. Let me see. Because I saw that and I was like, that's really cool. But it may not be in this book. It may be in another one. Maybe here. Find your flower. Yeah, let's go to 158 and see what that has to say. So, one of the things it says this: I believe that nature is teaching us how to be human every moment of every day, and that flowers in particular hold information about who we are and who we're becoming, blooming, and transforming into. I believe here on this planet that we each have a flower that holds a similar quality to who we are at a soul level. Celestial notes to self, flowers sent from the soul to ourselves on the earth to remind us of who we really are. I believe that in different periods of our life, as new things are blooming within us, the qualities that are wanting to open up within us can be coaxed out by working with flowers. I believe it's impossible to work with flowers and not have your heart open more, and little by little, they will return you to the true nature of who you really are. And that's really good. Here's the one I found that I thought was really good. Those who have allowed themselves to experience the inner autumns and winters are the ones who truly embody their humanity and can hold space for those who are going through their own versions of that. And we're all constantly being invited to do that. The more we allow ourselves our inner autumns and winters, the more compassionate we can be to our fellow companions, the more we see each other with tender care. We're suddenly capable of recognizing the great courage it takes to truly live in this human journey with an open heart. When we zoom out and realize that we're each but a speck of exploded stardust in a universe within a multiverse much greater than anyone in history could possibly fathom, it's almost impossible not to gain a greater perspective. If we were able to zoom out enough to see it, we'd realize the breathtaking beauty of this planet that so much of humanity has taken for granted. The answer isn't to transcend and ignore the devastation that's happening here. The answer is also not to ignore the interconnectedness of it all. Just as we can't heal what we don't acknowledge in our own life, the same goes for us as a planet. I trust in nature's ability to regenerate. I believe that this planet can do that too, and we can do that as well, but it'll require us to stop seeing ourselves as separate from nature. Now, where this ties into this particular card, this particular flower, when it blooms, it does not give a crap about the rose next to it. It doesn't give a rat's ass about the tulips down the street. It just blooms and it says, "Here I am." These cards are perfectly lining up. They're pointing at each other. They're very connected today. Your job is to create. And if others cannot handle it, you have to remember that at one point in time they tried to create, and some thoughtless comment shut it down entirely. There will be times in your life where what you created way back when will be very much appreciated even celebrated, even if you don't think it's perfect. And maybe that new thing doesn't catch on so well. That's okay, move on to the next thing. Whatever you do, create. That is the power that resides in each and every one of us. And it's the power we need today. No matter where it is in your life, create solutions, create answers, create a little more of yourself, create a little more of that world that you want to see come into being. Getting me? Alright, so that's everything for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly enjoy having you. Just remember, I love you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Hello, Mr. Bub. Always do what lights you up. And as always, my friends, family, neighbors, and tribe, shine on.